Welcome back to Frontline Tactic. My name's Segif, and today I am going to be doing something a little bit different. I'm going to be starting a new series called Nostalgia, so I'm going to be playing a bunch of games that I used to play like years ago, or various things like that. Part of it has to do with the discovery of GOG. I've known it's been around for a while, but I've never actually participated in it. I've recently bought one of the games off of it, and I've browsed through it, and I'm like, oh my gosh, it's a candy store. I miss a ton of these games. And so I may be doing a little bit of reviews on the games, not so much as a review of saying, this is that and this is this, but more or less going, this is why this game was great. This is why you want to come back and play this game again. So today, a while ago, I was in the middle of a move, and I was going through my old discs, and I actually found all my EverQuest stuff. And I was like, I'm gonna get this, see if I can get this up and running, see if my characters are still here. And sure enough, my characters are still here after almost, I made this character almost 15 years ago. And so I find it kind of funny that this character is possibly older than some of the people that would be watching this video. And I don't know, I find a slight bit of humor in that. But I want to tell you about why this game was, what caught me into this game is, one, the diverse of classes. There was a class for everybody. And I originally started playing as the Paladin, because I was playing D&D, and the Paladin was pretty awesome. You get to, be as tough as a warrior, but still cast some spells and heals as a cleric. In this game, much like Dungeons & Dragons, you have to progress so many levels for you to get that. And I was having a hard time with the Paladin. And I was just having a hard time with the game just because, I was 14, 15... No, I was 14 or something when I started playing this game. And so I was not, how to say it, the established gamer as I am now, where I can sit down, break down strategy, break down, what's this, what's that. And I did eventually get that way, but at the beginning, I started with the Paladin. It was very difficult for me. But I eventually got into the Druid. I gave the Druid a try because a person I ran into was like, dude, I see you're having a hard time with the Paladin. And he was a Druid, and the diverseness of him able to assist me in all the different ways, I was like, oh my gosh, this is an amazing class. This is what I want to play. He's kind of good at a little bit of everything, and I like the survivability and the independence of it. And so I basically abandoned my Paladin and played Druid, and I absolutely loved it. My brother, some friends of mine, we got into it. We used to have a couple computers set up at the house when I was living with my dad, and yeah, we would all play together, and we make our own group, and we didn't have to deal with it like most other people, and we were very self-sufficient. So this is Leafcatcher, my Druid that I've had forever. And right now I'm in Old Sebulus, in the hallway that this character practically leveled the last 15-20 levels in, and I still, when I boot it back up and play again, I still come back to the same location just because it's familiar, and I know it has some good XP and good money. So it's kind of like this little nook that I always play in. Now, the game for EverQuest has now grown to such points that it has, I think, 19 expansions now, which is ridiculous. So the game is still going. There's still a pretty good community now. And one thing I can say that I like better than I did back in the day is the community is a lot better. If you ask a question, someone will answer with an appropriate response. Well, back in the day, it was very cutthroat. It's a lot like what World of Warcraft has turned into now, which I've recently stopped playing that as well. I've played World of Warcraft pretty extensively, so I can make a pretty good comment on it. But if it wasn't for this game, games like Guild Wars 2, World of Warcraft, various others, wouldn't have some of the groundwork for the game done. I would say that for MMOs, EverQuest is possibly one of the most pinnacle games ever. And so I guess right there, I was like, I'm not so much talking about this game specifically, but the impactfulness that this game has on the market. One of the other things I like is like the items and the stats. They're very, in the beginning they weren't so in depth, but as I can see as time has gone on, development of games and game mechanics has gone on greatly more, and so now you have all these other things, and it looks like with some of the expansions that's came out, they've gone to be able to do bonus things, and so it's very intricate now. Let me see here. I'm refreshing some of the buffs. And that's another thing, is this character you can play as a healer, or you can play as a daughter, you can play even as a nuker on a lesser extent. But this character strived at kiting, which there's games now that kiting's not even a viable mechanic anymore. Like, you can't really kite in EverQuest, because if you, or World of Warcraft, because if you do it in that game, you'll actually lose the mob and it resets, and so all your work is done. But one of the other things I liked, which actually World of Warcraft actually began on, but so many people complained that it was too hard and things like that, is that skills have a value. And so the more you do a skill, the better you're at it. And so, like, even there was languages. So that was another thing, is that there was a way that you could make money, because people wanted to learn languages, because there were certain classes or rare quests for you to do, and you had to have certain languages for it. And so I remember there being language parties. And language parties was basically, you set up a hotkey and then you spam the hotkey in the group, and they get the language bonuses. So the more they hear a language, the better the skill at it gets. And I like that. As well as, like, if you want to be good at one-handed swords, pick up a one-handed sword and use it. And the difficult part was that you had to attack a creature that gave you XP. And so if you're just running around, as a level 55 killing a level 1 rat with a sword, your skill in that sword will never go up. But if you attack something like your own level, then the skill would go up. And so it was very, for like a lot of the melee classes, mostly warriors, paladins, shadow knights, which, come on guys, World of Warcraft, Death Knight, Shadow Knight was the original. The Death Knight is a complete rip-off. The whole anti-paladin idea. So that's some of the things that I really like about this game, and the fact that there's exploration. For the most part, most places, here's your map for the dungeon. There you go. You are here. Memorizing a zone as well as exploration was a needed skill to be competitive in this game. There's zones to this day that I can go into and I know exactly where I'm running to without a map. And we used to, I had a cousin that went and printed off an entire map for us. Like, there was this website, EQ Atlas, I think it was called, and he worked at Kinko's, and he made us a giant map to help us out. And even then, even off that website and all that information, there were still zones that didn't have maps because no one had mapped it out. And I like that. I like the mystery and the exploration. And for the most part, EverQuest still has it. There's still a lot of places that don't have a map, that are difficult to get around in, and there's certain classes that you needed in order to get around to those. And there's even some zones that you can't get to without other classes, really. And so I absolutely love that. The synergy of the classes, as well as it gives the opportunity that certain classes that you need. And so there's almost like a markability of skill sets and tools. Because like one of the things that really torqued me off in, like, say, World of Warcraft, where you had the summoning stones, where you had to go to the zone in order to summon. And sometimes warlocks were paid decent money in order to help transport people over there. Or even wizards to do the teleports. Well, now they made it pretty much that you can queue, or teleporting is only done for the lazy, or those that are trying to get around really quickly with like a group that's a pre-designed group. Not so much, hey, looking for a port. And even then they get, you know, it's nowhere near the value because you can get there so quickly. But they did the summoning stones and all this other stuff. They did something kind of similar to that with EverQuest to a lesser extent. There's certain zones that have usually a major city next to. They did with Plains of Knowledge, where they put a book down for you to teleport to. And I used to make a ton of money on this character teleporting people around. A friend of mine that we used to play a lot together, he had a wizard and I had a druid. And together, we could teleport people to all over the place. And that's one of the ways that we made a lot of money, was teleporting. And it went down once Plains of Knowledge came out and people weren't asking for so many teleports, but there's still some obscure places that we could teleport to. And so that was kind of nice. Now let me dispatch, bolt down this frog, dot him up. That's one of the other things, as you see over here in my damage log. Me getting hit actually hurts people. I have a Thorns ability where I can cast a spell and I actually have thorns grow out of me, which then anytime I get hit or struck, it deals damage. And so sometimes, because I know that my healing is because I can regenerate health, is so good, I can take a few hits and I just sit down. And so I melee for a short bit. So this is a testament to the diverseness of some of the classes. But yeah, I'm still gonna play this. The reason why I got back into this, I was just super frustrated with work, and I was like, I need something nostalgic. And so I was like, oh yeah, I booted this back up, and I enjoy it. I will come back and play it every once in a while, just for, I don't know, just for nostalgic reasons. I mean, I know that I'm not gonna get really far with this. I know I'm probably not gonna, you know, do any dungeon or, you know, major raids, and I'm not looking to make any friends. I'm just kind of doing the solitary thing, being left alone, and kind of like, you know, doing some kites, doing some root dots, and there we go. And so right there, I'll tell you about the alternate experience, which I absolutely love. So in most games, every class is pretty similar to each other, and you know, it becomes cookie cutter. Like World of Warcraft now has gotten to the point where it's borderline cookie cutter. They've taken all the choices away from the specking and things like that. So for the most part, all the druids are going to be the same. We have the same spells. We have everything else like that until you get to level 51, where you get to start the alternate experience. Alternate experience are like little tokens and stuff where you can spend to increase things. Like right here, you can increase the base strength, which then, you know, impacts how much you can carry, all this other stuff. Quick draw expands the potion belt, so like if you have potions, things like that. Salvage, the ability, the chance to automatically recover an item that would otherwise be lost to a failed trail skill combine. And so like you have your archetypes, which has to do with kind of like this is a kind of a healer buffer class, and then you have specifics to your class. And so I really like that, and you can save them up, and you can actually change how much XP you get from a kill to devote it to your leveling process. And so the more you put into it, the faster your alternate experience goes up, but also the slower you level. And the reason why I mentioned that is when you die, you lose XP. There's penalties to actually dying. Like World of Warcraft, I didn't care if I died. It's good. It was inconvenient, but it was like, yeah, I lost a few dollars, a few gold coins or whatever. No big deal. This, you die and you potentially lost like 2 hours of XP grinding or kiting or whatever. Like it was like you lost parts of your life essentially. It was kind of a neat notion. I don't know if a lot of people like really thought about that, but XP equal, how much XP you get is time spent in your actual life. So if you lose XP, you've actually essentially lost, your life. I thought that was kind of cute and novel. Oh, this frog's almost done. But yes, I probably will still play on a short bit, just kind of in a nice nostalgic way. But yeah, if you worked really hard, you could get these spells that could actually cast spells for you, and then it cost mana. And mana was another thing that is precious. I see that they've really done one of the expansions where if you're out of combat for so long, you actually get kind of a slight HP and mana regeneration buff, which is kind of nice because like mana used to be so precious that you would gauge what you could do, and now they've made it so it's not that bad, but it's still like you have to plan your mana. It is a precious resource, and in other games your mana almost regens so fast that it doesn't feel that way. I'm filling up here. See what I can get rid of. Let's destroy those because I don't even know what. Or two. Oh yeah, I can destroy that too. That was to something that was stupid. And I guess I can get rid of some of my food. That's the other thing about the druid is we can forage and we can feed ourselves. Like a druid never starves. And that's another thing in a lot of games is food and drink is not a resource. Huh. And so, like, if you don't eat properly, you will starve to death. And I like that as well. That's another way I made money, was I could forage food real easily. And wasn't an issue for me. What I would make money for, or I would provide it for other people as well. My brother and my other friends that I would group with, I would basically feed them, which also played a role for baking and stuff like that. There was a few teas that I used to be able to make that were really good for poison resistance and stuff like that because I could pick the herb, and there's no way that you could get the herb to make that specific tea for poison resistance except for foraging. Okay, block line of sight on this guy. Kind of getting lit up. And so yeah, it's just just the level of independence in this game that there was. I really like that. Kind of like brought out the loner in me, especially during the teenage years. But yeah, I hope you kind of like this rant about this game and how much I like it, and the nostalgia that it brings me back. There's certain music and smells that to this day that I remember the smell of a lot of times fresh cut grass, because I would mow the lawn in between mana breaks. I would run out, mow part of the lawn, and then run back in. You know, because back in the day mana took so long, like you could take a 10-15 minute break to go do something, and your mana would barely be, you know, topped off if you tapped out to 0 mana. And so that was something I used to do. Well, I'll probably do more nostalgia videos soon. One of my nostalgia videos that I have set up is some of the Icewind Dales, Stalker, and any of the other old discs I can find. If you have any suggestions or any other old games that you're like, hey, did you ever play this? Let me know. I'll see if I have it, and I'll kind of put my 2 cents in. Alright, guys. Have a good night. See you later. Bye.